Or hands.
We've been muted. Excuse me.
We have been muted this whole time. That is very funny. And no one in the chat was like, "Where's the two dorks talking over this?" No, we are back, folks. This is my polar shrimp deck. Is in my 75 cards, being borrowed by my friend Spencer and Mike Smart, regular top 8er of this event. Fritz, I didn't realize that we needed to move the iPad up in order to make it fit. Could you go tweak that, please?
Yeah, the iPad has gotten moved.
Yeah, I adjusted it, unfortunately. This one's on me. This is on one of the people in the commentary booth. I will keep talking while Fritz goes and adjusts this. We see a portent. One of the classic problems with the Dreadnought deck is missing your early land drops. I thought the camera was adjusted such that it would fit next to the mat, but clearly not. All right. We see a draw of island off of that portent shuffle. The kind of basic heuristics of the deck involve keeping hands with a combo piece in your opening hand and at least 2 cantrips, or you can also keep hands with just Dreadnought with no cantrips as long as you have enough lands. Unfortunately, Spencer missed his second land drop because of failing to hit one off a sleight of hand or his second draw step. Portent being the highest leverage counterspell in the form, or cantrip in the format, you get to see up to 4 cards if you really want to.
Yeah. Yep. And with 17 lands in the Polar Shrimp deck, you're just under the expectation to see a land when you cast Sleight of Hand and take a draw step.
Correct. But you need to keep most of those hands.
But yeah, a lot of velocity out of Smart here.
Yeah, early exploration into Enchantress is pretty
6 mana to 1.
Pretty strong. 6 mana to 1. Drawing more cards. Unfortunately, we see
There's 12/12.
The worst nightmare of the Enchantress player.
And there's Vision Charm. So Spencer's going to get a chance to interact with whatever piece of interaction Smart either has in hand or is able to find this turn.
Do you think we're at the point where we need to crack this solitary or crack the Sterling Grove for Seal, given that we don't see anything off the Miri Skyle?
We might see that. I think the only way you lose is you just brick on answers to Dreadnought. So if I'm in Smart Seed and I don't have an immediate answer to the Dreadnought, you definitely want to consider that line.
That makes sense to me. Smar on his second cocktail of the day. Smar has one of my favorite policies, which is every time he wins a match, he has to drink another cocktail. And for whatever reason, he still seems to top 8 all of our tournaments.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something about drinking that reminds you of your own mortality.
That it does, and sometimes accelerates it at the right quantities. All right.
Tapping for 3. Going for
probably the Seal here.
Yeah, I think we're going to go find a Seal. Spencer needs to find either a Stifle or a Vision Charm to save the shrimp from this Seal when that resolves.
He can also foil the Seal as it comes down.
True.
If he has an island and a foil, or if he has like a gush and can draw into it. Notably, the Polar Shrimp deck plays less land or less total gushes. It only plays 1 copy, primarily because we play 2 thwarts in those slots, and because the deck is kind of oriented towards playing a very early shrimp or a very late shrimp. That's why it's called Polar Shrimp. And you don't really want to bounce your lands to your hand until you're protecting a shrimp or you're going to miss a land drop. And so That's why we play the lower number of gushes.
That's much that etymology is much less cool than the etymology I thought it had, which is it's called polar shrimp just because
braid freezes in the sideboard.
It was developed in winter of 2025.
That's also really cool.
But deck nomenclature was one of the cooler features of the history of Magic. It's also one of the less explainable ones when you talk about Ponza or Three Deuce.
Yeah.
Or any of those, the classics.
Or Solidarity, or the Gate, or Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah. And some of these deck names have really problematic histories.
You said it, not me.
So we see Smart with 2 Enchantress effects and a Seal of Cleansing. Feeling pretty comfortable. Unfortunately, we'll see... And
we do see the gush.
End step gush.
No, I don't think it's resolved yet. We're still in the main phase.
Oh, okay. Oh, main phase gush. Just responding to the seal. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Responding to the draw triggers. That makes sense. And another land off that exploration. And
second
another
Enchantress.
Off the floating mana from the Sanctum being tapped. Sorry.
Second exploration.
Second exploration, so potential
another
third
land drop.
It's one with a massive grip of cards. No floating mana.
Play my second land for turn. There's two. There's one floating white.
Oh sure.
Wild Growth. Draw 3.
Yep.
And in classic Dreadnought fashion, the shrimp player controls no permanents, and the Enchantress player has all of the permanents.
Yeah, this is a classic 13 permanents to 1 permanence
situation. Solitary is definitely going to ramp it up for Smar here, given the number of enchantments in hand. And Smar opting for the more traditional Enchantress kind of combo prison deck build rather than Sam's control deck. I think, by and large...
yeah, I think Smar's playing the full 4 exploration.
Yeah, he likes making his land drops. Also, a concession to wanting your cards to cost 1.
3 copies of exploration.
3 copies of exploration. He's an Enlightened Tutor fan, though, playing 1 copy.
A single copy.
1 replenish in the main.
2 Elephant Grass is an interesting addition.
I think probably a concession to both potentially seeing Moneyball Black as well as the number of red decks you might see in the room.
Yep.
Also good against Tide, as Waddle has let us know in the chat.
Yeah, Tide exploration allows you to just rebuild when you get tided. Otherwise, Tide can be quite annoying for an Enchantress deck to deal with. But with exploration, you just make some land drops and then you're back in the game. On Spencer's side, there's just not a whole lot they can do here. And there's Opalescence. Spencer with not a whole lot of meaningful game actions to take here.
No, I think
looking to take 6 damage this turn.
Yeah, and now everything is untouchable. There's our second land drop, third land drop. Beat down. It is Spencer's first pre-modern tournament, funnily enough, and he started it off 2-0.
Shrimp is good.
Shrimp, good deck. Also, a lot of experience playing blue tempo decks in other formats. So,
Yeah. Polar Shrimp is a, despite some of the card choice differences, it is
still a Dreadnought deck.
still a Dreadnought deck. It's within 15 cards of the most aggressive Shrimp lists.
Smart going to discard.
Assume it's not going to matter very much. Oh, I discarded a basic forest. Okay. Spencer, playing an island.
I don't believe has any relevant spells.
Just content.
He does
pass the
have
turn.
he does have Chain of Vapor for 1 copy of Opal.
Is the second Opal already in play?
Not yet.
But we should expect it soon. What are you drinking there, Noah?
The Paloma Grand Goza, because I've decided the best way to follow up a hangover is with another one.
Well, you gotta restore the salt content in your body, and the best way to do that is with a
Is
wonderful
with
salty beer.
a beer that tastes like the sea. We do see the classic Chain of Vapor your Opal play, and then remembering that that is not a legal target due to the Sterling Groves. We see the players moving to sideboard.
All right, Noah, you want to talk about how you sideboard with
You mill them.
with the
You
Polar
board
Shrimp
out
deck?
4 copies of Dreadnought, 2 copies of Stifle, 2 copies of Vision Charm. You board in Xantid Swarm, Dominate, Powder Keg, Annul, and Brain Freeze, as well as your additional copy of Flash of Insight. You board in most of your sideboard other than your Red Blasts, because you assume bees, and you take advantage of the fact that your Enchantress opponent doesn't know which sideboard cards, which plan you're on in Game 2. Then you can board your Dreadnoughts back in, or you can just try and mill them again. It is very tough, given that your Enchantress opponent still has a number of copies of Abeyance, Xantid Swarm, Aura of Silence, and Gaia's Blessing out of the board, but that's why you keep Stifle in.
And you just have to have a sufficient number of copies of Stifle
Before you go off.
Before you can go off.
The plus side is sometimes your opponent does a lot of the work for you by casting too many Enchantresses, and they don't know that that's what you're trying to do.
Right.
Notably, you can also dominate their animated enchantments once you have once Opalescence is in play, to do some funky creature combat things.
So you do board and dominates.
Yeah,
And to
it's
dominate
it's
to
primarily
bees?
to bees.
I see. That's interesting. The other thing that's interesting about that is, just the whole consideration around like Stifle versus Gaia's Blessing. Also, for those of you less familiar with the pre-modern format, a lot of these Enchantress lists have exactly 1 card that ends the game out of them.
Yeah, well, so that's what you do before starting to mill them. Is you board out all your Dreadnoughts and you just counter all of the relevant spells,
Namely Opalescence. And
Yeah,
cards
and
that prevent you from countering Opalescence later.
Yeah, so the cards you have to counter are Opalescence, and then Replenish, and that's about it in Game 1. So
Is that generally a better Game 1 plan, to just mill them 16 cards? It varies, I imagine.
it depends on the texture of your hand.
Yeah, like Spencer in Game 1, Spencer had a situation which they missed a second land drop and just had to run out Shrimp
Correct.
to try and end the game.
One, like, shoving early is a very popular approach, even with the Polar deck, mulliganing to a hand that can make a turn 2 or a turn 3 Dreadnought.
Did you see whether Spencer boarded out Shrimp?
I don't think he did. He probably isn't super sure.
It's very counter. It feels it's very counterintuitive because you think that's the core plan of the deck.
No. No, you're absolutely correct, and
But there's different plans that work here.
for sure.
Match knowledge is really important in pre-modern.
Yeah, format knowledge. Like I beat a Luis Salvato last night when I was on MTGO playing the Dreadnought deck. I think in large part because I had a good sense of what spells were important, and he's good at all of the other Magic formats, but I probably know a little more about pre-modern. Given that he is on the Pro Tour and has to prep for things and isn't just playing pre-modern constantly.
Right. Yeah. Format and deck knowledge is really important.
Very, very
So
crucial.
we're gonna see game 2 kick off here.
Island Portent. We love to see it. We don't see a shuffle off a Portent. Spencer takes the draw.
Powder keg has come in, or powder keg has stayed in, I guess.
Yeah, it
Should because everything needs to answer bees.
you have to kill bees. It's the operating card of the matchup. It's the reason that Essence Flare Tech was developed.
For our viewers who are not familiar with Ice Age, with random cards from Ice Age,
It's an aura that costs a single blue mana. It gives a creature +2/+0, and says at the beginning of the creature's controller's upkeep, you put a -0/-1 counter on that creature. So it answers X1s on their next upkeep, but notably, you also use it to kill Meddling Mage out of the board, because it is better to take 4 from Meddling Mage and then kill it than let it stay on the board for any longer than that.
Yep. So we see Powder Keg versus Exploration.
Smart just making a lot of land drops.
4 lands to 2.
That I think is one of the major under-discussed strengths of the Dreadnought deck is how little operating mana it needs turn over turn.
Yeah.
Because of the sheer quantity of both free spells and the fact that half of your deck costs 1.
100%. Yeah, one of the strongest features of the deck is that the combo costs so little mana, and then the infrastructure around the combo costs so little mana, so you just don't have to play that many lands, and you don't have to operate on that many lands.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely puts it at a different tier of functionality than the rest of the format. You know, given that the other best combo deck in the format, Replenish, relies on casting a billion 4-drops.
Yeah, and they have their own ways to circumvent that. Their answer, of course, is I play more lands and I play soul lands.
Yeah, like Ancient Tomb and City of Traders. Putting a counter.
Spencer understands that, implicitly, that you should put a counter on this. I don't know how he knows that, but that's pretty cool.
Maybe the card says put a counter on the upkeep, and you get to make a decision that seems favorable to you. But we'll see. I wonder. So how interested are you? If your opponent plays an Enchantress, like an Argothian, are you interested in taking this up to 2 and cracking it? It probably depends, right?
It really depends on how many Enchantresses my opponent otherwise controls.
Right. If they have one other Enchantress.
If they have one other Enchantress or 0, it's very, very, very
tempting,
reasonable. But typically, I'm not going that far.
Going for the Annul on Sterling Grove.
Annul on Sterling Grove is a curious choice, but certainly defensible if you want to interact in other ways, like with Chain of Vapor.
Yeah, if you're just looking to spend your mana efficiently. So we're going to see... What are we going to see? We're going to see Muri's Guile. Would you have preferred to annul that?
No, I probably would rather have cast Accumulated Knowledge this turn or Impulse than...
Hitting land number 3 is actually kind of important here.
Yeah, and even beyond just hitting land 3, I kind of want to... I really want to hold the cheaper counter spells for the crucial cards like Opalescence.
Yeah. Yeah, you just want to counter the spells that matter.
Yep.
But that's, of course, given your sideboard plan, which is let my opponent spin their wheels, counter the things that matter, and then mill them out. But when we're talking about the I keep my dreadnoughts in, I find my time I pick my spot to shove. Getting your opponent off of their relevant card advantage engines is very important.
Crucial.
So we're going to see
Absolutely
a
crucial.
bans here targeting Spencer. So bans would prevent Spencer from activating abilities and casting instant or sorcery spells during Smar's turn, which it currently is. So we're going to see an impulse in response. Rather, impulse or AK is always an interesting choice.
I like the card Island very much here.
Yeah, you really need that card.
Will's in. Seal, two draws.
I'm going to see a seal on the powder keg. Yep. Seal on the powder keg. No response possible. A pass.
Smart with a really, really, really clean game.
Yeah, Smar's in a pretty commanding position here.
Like there are like spots here where if Spencer manages to like Dreadnought Stifle and then hit a couple lucky draws, there was a shot, but the window's closes very quickly against Enchantress.
100%, yeah. The deck just pulls ahead so quickly. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, Noah's taking a judge call here. So we got another Enchantress from Smar. Tapping 2, floating mana, casting the bees. Have our meat raffle winners being announced in the background. So apologies if you struggle to hear me here. Not just one, but 2 copies of Xanthid Swarm in play. So last turn setting up with the abeyance to get that powder keg off the board was actually critically important. Smart taking another turn. Solving Mirror's Guile. Taking a card. Going to combat. Attacking with 2 copies of the Xanthid Swarm. So Spencer is doubly unable to cast spells this turn when that resolves. Should probably consider casting a spell in response. Casting Accumulated Knowledge to draw a card. And a 4th island. And those bees will resolve. Causing some big problems here. All right, we have Will Hurst joining us in the booth here to commentate the rest of this game.
Yeah.
Such as it is. So those Xanthid Swarms are attacked this turn, and here's an Opalescence.
Absolutely.
So Noah and I were talking earlier about how important it is to counter all the copies of Opalescence.
Yes.
In this case, not really in a situation in which that's quite possible.
Yeah, unless some gushing or things have been going on, and I was peeking a little bit as I was in there, Spencer has appeared to be very land light this game.
Yep.
And while Dreadnought can play a land light game, Polar Shrimp is a interesting build that doesn't play well with less lands. And especially in this matchup, you want to build up your resources because it is not hard for Enchantress to double, triple, quadruple spell. And notably in, I believe, Polar Shrimp, they run copies of Thwart.
Yeah.
Which really hurts the land-locked opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, excellent. That's an excellent take on the Polar Shrimp deck, especially for this matchup. You just need to have mana to counter multiple spells, and you just don't have as many free counter spells.
Yeah.
Or the ability to dig for free counter spells.
I mean, and the Enchantress of yesteryear versus the Enchantress now, especially after our last LobsterCon and the changes that were made to fight, specifically the blue matchup, which Enchantress has in the past had trouble with, the matchup's a monster. I mean, you look at this board, you got Sanctums, you got to deal with their cantripping, you got to deal with the stupid bees that happen. It's just it's a nightmare after game one.
This game is all but over.
Yeah, it's and Spencer's relatively new deck. We were talking in between rounds, and this was a match we were talking about. It's like if there's a deck that knows how to have answers, it's this one. And he's finding it out. It's not here yet. This Opalescence is obviously gonna hurt, obviously, on swing back. Now, I do not know Mike's deck list. I know Mike has been sometimes reluctant to play the Gaia's Blessing plan out of his board.
Yeah, Smart has 2 blessings.
Okay, so he has gotten to the Blessing plan, which makes the secondary plan that Dreadnought will typically have, the mill plan that used to be viable, now very much
more challenging. Yeah, you need to have more 2 additional storm count, and you need to find 2 copies of Stifle.
Yes, it's a rough one. It's a rough one to be sure.
Yeah, it's hard to find functional plans post board. And while you can have them, and while your opponent, and while the Enchantress deck can stumble, and you have the option to and as always in this format, when you shove with shrimp on turn 2. Sometimes the game is just contracted to a point where your opponent needs to find an answer within 2 turns, or else the game ends.
Yes.
And sometimes happens. So we're going to see Stifling 2 bees triggers.
Oh, Lord.
To what end, it's unclear. Maybe just to send a message.
Just to let him know, hey, we can deal with the bees. We're not worried about them. The other stuff, maybe not. But the bees, we got it covered. Additionally, with the Polar Shrimp build, that build has moved away from a primary weapon that Dreadnought could have in the Parallax Tide plan.
Right.
I understand why Shrimp has moved away from it in many cases. I have yet to be fully convinced, as a person who doesn't play it, why it's correct to move away from an angle like that.
Yeah, Noah's explained it to me before. I think it really is. It does come down to the matchups, like the matchups you want to win and the matchups you want to lose.
Yeah.
And Enchantress has demonstrated a lot of resilience to Tide as a plan.
That's true.
Especially with with 3 or 4 copies of Exploration in your main deck.
Carpet of Flowers.
Just allowing to rebuild off after Tide and just present the same threat suite, even when you lose 5 lands.
Yeah. And I think I'm at the point now where Dreadnought is still Dreadnought. I think my opinion is that Enchantress is the best deck in the format, I think, across the board. It has plans for just about everything. It's resilient to a lot of the big stuff going on. They've figured out this matchup. They figured out the red matchup. It turns out that matchup is, let's just play more like solitary confinements, and life is better. So I'm in firm belief. I think that Enchantress, for me, has surpassed any version of Shrimp as best deck in format.
Yeah, and I think it cycles. I think one of the defining features of Pre-Modern as a format is simply the strength of answers and the strength of sideboard cards.
Yes.
So as soon as people start registering, a bunch of a tranquil domains in the sideboard, and aura fluxes out of the blue decks, and the whole gamut, playing Simoon as opposed to other options out of the red deck. I think you're just going to see cycling. You're just going to see the format cycle in various directions.
Oh, yeah.
And respond to, what are the flavor of the month that best deck is.
Exactly. And that's one of the fun things when you're choosing a deck and building your sideboard is, as you're stepping into a room, what flavors of stuff am I going to see? Because if you want to beat Dreadnought, you can. If you want to beat Enchantress, you can. It's just how much do you want to give up for here, room for other things to be able to do it? How sure are you that this is the deck I'm going to face at the right time versus am I going to face these other decks down the line that are going to put me in a rough spot?
Right.
And I think that's been a very fun part of when I've looked at decks and built sideboards and main decks and what I'm doing. That's something I've truly enjoyed recently.
Yeah, if you like building sideboards, Pre-Modern is a forum for you.
Exactly. Apologies, guys. I'm getting a cold. We had over a cold. We had a judge call in which I did not have the answer for, so we escalated that on up. But this, I'm struggling to see what Spencer can really do to pull out of this one.
All right, Spencer's got 1 life.
Feeling like not much.
Is there a Sterling Grove in play on Smart's
There
side?
is. I do not see a Sterling Grove.
So just digging for a Chain of Vapor to try and get this Opalescence off the board.
Yes. That would be the route. Okay. I do not know if the powder keg is good job too, Mike, pulling up the win there. I noticed that Spencer had a powder keg in his graveyard. I'm not sure if that's main deck in the Polar Shrimp lists.
It is.
It is. Notably, that does kill the Xantid Swarms.
Yes, that's the reason it's in the deck
okay.
off the board.
I was about to say, I was like, why are we? Okay. But no, a hard matchup. Spencer definitely at a disadvantage. Yeah, no, there's not really much more to say. The deck, Enchantress has the answers to what Dreadnought's doing. It's effective, it's fast, it's explosive, it's resilient. So no surprises there, really.
Yeah, it's a deck that's very well tuned, like very well suited in the format to beat Dreadnought.
Agreed.
As you said, it answers sweet. Also, a powerful proactive plan. It's able to draw more cards than the Dreadnought deck and therefore see more of its answers. Just put yourself in a position where you resolve your Opalescence and the game is just over very, very quickly. And then the addition of Gaia's Blessing makes it so you can just play a longer game than the Dreadnought deck, and you're insulated against the mill plan that they can present.
Yeah.
So.
Well, moving on to just the tournament in general, this is our second iteration for the Invitational, our 4th Mogg event, and we have seen both standout players who have top-aided multiple ones, but also new players every time. This is the largest one we've had so far, 29 players. People are enjoying it. The room seems full of different decks. What has been some of your most fun that you've seen across our couple events as we've been looking at things?
In terms of the
into
deck
decks,
selection?
Yep, absolutely.
I really like it when people bring their homebrew decks
Yes.
to these tournaments. I think at our first event we saw a green-white kind of Tarragon style deck among the fray, and this time we've got several different variants of like red-green aggro. We have a life combo deck.
Psychotog.
Yeah, we got someone bringing Psychotog. I wonder if that's LSV's list. And a lot of local Allurin players, too, which is really interesting.
Exactly. And this is something that's been interesting with some of the support Pre-Modern has gotten through the contraption part of Magic Online. While we have always had TC decks for events, the leagues and challenges are generating so many deck lists that in a vacuum you see deck lists go 5-0.
Yep.
It's like, even if you had the easy road, that's still 5-0 in Pre-Modern is hard, even with the best decks, just with the variants that you see. And we've seen a lot of these, like you mentioned, red-green aggro, which is something I had toyed with. It is a variant we've seen, but it's now polished. The tools are there. We see it doesn't hurt the mana base. I think some of this effect we are seeing is new influx players, because I saw a lot of new players in there today. Influx of decks that I've seen a lot on MTGO and not a lot on paper in general.
Yeah.
What? Because you're not a huge MTGO guy, if at all. What do you think the influx has been as we've seen this news come out, we've seen some of this deck list, and now things are getting played?
I think that's a great like perspective on the format, Will. So like, given the volume of online play that's possible and that's actually happening, we're seeing kind of rapid iteration on decks that we thought were kind of established in the format.
Yes.
In particular, there's some like empty Joe grinders that picked up Burn, which and made some significant changes to the deck, cutting cards like Curse Scroll, for cards like Pyrostatic Pillar,
Yes.
which kind of offer a different ongoing source of damage over the game. And these are kind of dramatic changes to an established archetype. And those lists are getting copied. They're making 5-0s. They're getting played in challenges. And it's kind of changing. It's changing the expected meta game for a lot of people, both in online and in paper. So that's kind of an example of like the kinds of changes you can see as a result of MTGO. Because when you're on Magic Online, it's so easy to just like find a deck that 5-0'd or find a deck that top-8'd a challenge, copy and paste it into your favorite card lending service.
Yep.
Get a copy of that deck and just jam a league. And there's compounding effects of that too, because every time someone 5-0s with a deck, that gets it more visibility, more oxygen. That other people are going to pick it up.
And these are also, as you mentioned, grinders. I apologize, everybody. More recognizable faces in the community, people like an LSV, things of that nature, who are high profile, bringing it in with their own takes. And it is really interesting to see some of the higher profile players who have picked it up playing these decks and doing things or making decisions we would consider incorrect, but just different because of the point of view. And Spine didn't commentate today. We're going to take a break here in a second because I'm going to die on this thing.
Yeah.
But the main point is the new faces, big faces, new looks. We're seeing iterations of things. Whether they're right or wrong, I think it's a positive. We're getting new spins.
Yep.
Price increases, things like that.
Not a positive.
Not a positive, but I think the trajectory in general of pre-modern, it was going to happen. These cards, Moto's a bit different because they can kind of control the influx of things through chests. But these cards were still not going to get printed again anyway. This was eventually going to happen.
Will, you got to get...
I'm done.
You got to be done. I think, online pre-modern is great, but if you ever get a chance to play paper. You're going to love it. If you're ever in Madison, check out whatever local Discord server you frequent, or check online. We should post it. We'll post a schedule somewhere. I don't remember if we have a website or something. There's a newsletter. There's also a newsletter that we're sending out.
There's a newsletter. I was told that a website will be in the works.
Yeah.
We maybe have not covered all of our bases quite here yet at the Mogg Squad, but we will.
We're iterating.
Yeah, we got this.
We're iterating. With that, we got about a little under 10 minutes left in round 3, and we can check and see how many rounds are still ongoing here. I just need to refresh this little page. I said we got to refresh this little page. Looks like all of our rounds are wrapped up. So we're gonna see you here for round 4 in just a few minutes. So sit tight, and
regular people will be back shortly.
we'll be back with a new dawn round 4.